He is in the studio now. Welcome to the stream.
Hello. Yeah. Thank
Boom.
you.
How you doing? Thanks so much for joining. It's been too long, but good to have you here. Could you just give us kind of a basic overview of who you are and the company for everyone? You are on mute. Sorry. We lost audio. We're working on it. We heard him for a second. Okay. Can we talk now? Let's hear it.
1, 2. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
All right. Flo here, founder of Lindy. We are building a no-code platform to build AI agents to automate various workflows. So like sales, customer support, operations, you name it, we automate it using AI agents. Yeah.
I mean, the question we've been asking everyone is like, when can an agent book my flight or something like that? What's your timeline and what milestones are we expected to hit? I guess we're at a big picture level. We're all just waiting for the Studio Ghibli moment of agents. I think we passed the Turing test. Everyone used AI to do their homework. Everyone had that magical experience of like, wow, I'm talking to a computer. And then it faded out and people use it as an answer engine. And then same thing with Studio Ghibli, where everyone was like, this is incredible. But now it's like a tool and it's a filter and people use it tastefully and they'll be creative with it and sometimes they won't. But when do you think and what milestones do we need to hit to get this kind of breakout societal level meme around agents?
A year.
A year.
I broadly buy the meme that 2025 is the year of agents. It's like a year-ish. I think there's going to be a pretty serious inflection point. And I think like when you hear this kind of prediction, like a year is qualitatively different from like 5 years. Because like 5 years is like, a year means you see it in the pipeline. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Should come up. But whatever you share is live. So if you have tabs open with passwords, we're going to see it.
All my passwords, everything is open. We're
So
transparent.
be careful.
This is a demo we had of actually this is really cool because it's marrying computer use, which we haven't released yet, with agent swarms, which we released last week. And you can see here, I'm asking an agent like, hey, help me plan a trip to like Breckenridge in Colorado. I need to book a flight, find an Airbnb, and get a rental car.
Okay.
And it's deploying a swarm, and check this out. So it's deploying a swarm of 3 agents, one for each. So it's like booking a flight, finding an Airbnb, and reserving a car.
Yeah, decomposing the problem.
And it works. It just works. No interaction, no intervention needed. It just works. It's doing all of these things at the same time. So
is this live?
no.
Oh, this is a screen recording, right?
This is a recording. Oh yeah.
Okay. This is like really fast. Like,
God damn, it works really well. No. This is the downside today. It's like it's pretty slow. You can see this is like a 6-minute long recording, but in the end, it just works. So yeah, I think like this is going to be in production pretty rapidly.
Okay. Yeah. Follow up. Like part of what made the Studio Ghibli moment so powerful, in my opinion, was the fact that it didn't require a lot of creativity on the part of the user. And so everyone has a profile photo. Everyone has a photo of their dog or their family. They could just click upload Studio Ghibli style and they get something amazing. And I think that that's almost as important as the underlying technology to make something go mega viral. Do you think that we're using the right example with book a flight, or do you think, are there any other use cases you've seen where it's like, oh, I could see there's a day when every single person in America or everyone who's online is going to use an agent to do this because it'll be fun and viral and they'll want to share the results or it'll make their day better?
That's a great question. I am actually quite bearish for consumer agents. I think like consumers are time rich and money poor, right? It's like they don't want to trade time for money like that, which is why I think like Google Assistant and Alexa, like they've been really failures. And I don't think it's because of the technology. I think it's just like, one, you're time rich and money poor. And two, I think the life of a consumer is very convenient because on the other side of every transaction as a consumer, you've got a business which interested is to make the transaction as painless as possible.
Yep.
So I actually think like the flight booking experience is fine. I think the restaurant booking experience is fine. I think all of these experiences are kind of fine. I think like there is going to be a transformational moment for businesses where you have like the holy grail of AI agents is like what we call the drop-in replacement for a human worker. And I think that's coming in like 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, I almost just kind of riffing on this, but I almost wonder if the agent moment will look like the Studio Ghibli moment, but instead of a single picture, you'll say, go and do some research about my life or my kid's life, or I'll talk to it for a bit, and it just produces an entire animated book or something like that. And it's something that requires using multiple systems and writing and iterating and generating images. And so it's still highly personal. And so anyone in America or anyone in the world can get joy out of that experience, but it's something that wouldn't otherwise be created. Like, you might stop on a boardwalk and have an illustrator draw you at a carnival, but most people weren't hiring illustrators on Fiverr to turn them into anime, but they could when it was just one button. And so maybe the agent use case will be like, for consumers, will be de novo. It won't be optimizing something that they're already doing. It'll be something completely new that they would never have paid for. I don't know. What do you think?
We'll see. I mean, we had like one competitor that went viral like 9 months ago. They did something like that. It was like, use an agent to roast my Twitter.
Oh,
and it
yeah.
went viral, and then it fizzled out because the market is that, really. I think
Sure.
for this, even the Ghibli thing, I think, is going to eventually fizzle out. It's already fizzled out. It's like, I don't know that consumers need all that many agents. I think businesses need agents.
Yeah. Well, do you think it's a good like marketing strategy at least? Like, have you ever thought about like, how can I get even if it's a meme product or a meme use of Lindy, and it's not going to be an enduring, or it's going to be extremely high churn, but I know that everyone will sign up for that day, do one task, and I'll keep 2% of them. But that's a great trade because I figured out how to go viral with my product.
That's a good point. I think the downside, though, is that, boy, it's so expensive. AI is so expensive, and so that's gonna be a $10 million bill, like actually $10 million bill.
Yeah.
And like, look, OpenAI is burning money right now on the Ghibli thing, and they don't care because they raised like $40 billion. They have infinite money. If you're a startup, it's a different move.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to Toby's leaked memo this morning around being AI native? Did you see it?
I skimmed it and I forwarded it to the team and I said cosign before I even read it. I was like, whatever he says, I agree.
I love it. That's good management.
But do you think CEOs in general have been wary around being too pro AI in their businesses to not almost like basically scare employees because I don't think it's just
about not scaring employees. I think there is a culture in tech of avoiding to be too prescriptive on exactly the how, and it's really leading on outcomes and like letting engineers like do whatever they want and use any IDEs they want. And I think that the gap has grown so much now between the frontier of the level of productivity that you can achieve as an engineer and the median practice of the median engineer, especially in big companies, that now employers have no choice but to just lay the law and be like, hey, this is the tooling we use. Like, you don't get to use tooling from like the 1980s anymore.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about Lindy being sort of multi-product, and I can see a lot of reasons why, for phone calls as an example, there's companies that do that, right? And I could see the reason for Lindy to do multiple things is like, a customer does a phone call and then they need an email and then they want a recording, and like there's a bunch of sales, customer support, all these different areas end up connecting in. So I can see why you would want to be sort of multi-product, but I'm curious if there's any more. I'm sure you've thought very deeply about that, and curious
just being less opinionated about the actual use case for the customer.
Yeah, I actually think it's a single product. It's just a lot of use cases. And I think that's an important distinction because the beauty of building it this way is that you build a set of actually few low-level primitives. And then it's like Lego bricks, and then you can combine these Lego bricks however you want. And they combine super linearly. And then they explode into this set of use cases. The demo I just gave with like agent swarms and computer use, we didn't have to build this. We just built agent swarms, and now we're building computer use. And now these two things, just like this demo, just like happens like spontaneously, basically. So it's the same thing for computer use. Like when you build a computer use startup, I surmise that maybe 5% of your bandwidth is the actual not computer use, phone agents. 5% of your work is actually phone, like phone code and phone whatnot, right? The rest is like the scaffolding around the product, right? Like the SaaS features around like team collaboration and like the way to like orchestrate your agent and then the go-to-market overhead and all of that stuff. And so I'm like, man, it actually didn't take us that long to build the phone agent because we have all of that scaffolding around it. And once we have that building block, it's just that much more powerful because it's plugged into all our other primitives. And so you realize a ton of economies of scale from like a go-to-market standpoint and R&D standpoint. I think it's a better experience very often for the end user because you end up having all of your AI agents in one place. So you have like one clean pane of glass and you have all of your AI agents in one place. And I actually think it's going to be much more important even once AI agents can actually work together. You don't want like having all of these different platforms for all of your different AI agents. It's going to be the same thing as having like 5 headquarters. You want all your AI employees under the same roof able to work together very, very seamlessly.
Can you talk a little bit more about cost? You said that AI agents are very expensive to run. What was your reaction to DeepSeek? What's your reaction to Llama 4, some of the open source models that might be a little bit cheaper? What are you monitoring on the inference side?
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing costs fall by roughly 40 to 100x every year.
Okay.
So today, we don't have negative unit economics, but our unit economics are actually pretty thin. The margins are pretty thin, and we're totally fine with it. And so are investors because we're like, it doesn't matter. Like we have actually seen the prices go down by 40x. So it's expensive today, but it's actually still the ROI is tremendous, and soon it's just going to be an absolute no-brainer.
How much do you think that's driven by new algorithms and optimizations versus just new hardware and put the transformer on silicon or bake the weights of Llama 4 into an ASIC or something like that?
Historically, it's been mostly new algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, or like distillations, for example, like GPT-4 Turbo or like GPT-4o is so much smaller than like the original GPT-4. Like GPT-4 was like a 1.7 trillion parameter model, and GPT-4o I think is like what 50B or something like that.
Yeah.
And then yes, there are a ton of there's like quantization and there's like a lot of optimizations at the level of the stack. We know that these innovations didn't happen at the hardware level in the time span where we saw these costs fall.
Can you talk a little bit about evaluation of new models? We saw Llama 4 dropped on Saturday. How does your team actually test that? Do you just roll it out to a small set of users? Or are you just playing it with yourself? Do you have evals built out? How are you testing new LLMs when they drop? Because it seems like it's every week this year.
Totally. I think so we do have our own evals built out for like a cool set of use cases that we're going after. And there's a couple hundred test cases there. And we also test by vibes quite a lot. I will say, I feel bad for saying that because I have friends in like the Llama team, but boy, like Llama 4, the vibes are really bad. Like the evals are good and the vibes are quite bad actually.
What do you think's driving that? Is that just too much focus on pre-training, which is hitting a wall on the scale side, or is there something else going on?
There are rumors that they injected some data from the evals in the training set at the last minute.
Yeah, isn't that like data poisoning or something like that, or just eval saturation?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw like
I saw the allegations.
I apologize to my Llama friends, but the VP of AI research at Meta resigned, and so have a couple members of the core research team, seemingly in protest for what they deem to be unethical practices.
Oh, interesting. We'll have to follow up on that.
And is that, you think that just comes down to their AI team being on just having so much pressure due to Meta's investment in CapEx that it's like, if you're not best in class, it's just clearly, what are you doing basically?
If you're not first, you're last.
I think Zach is massively raising the temperature, and I think he's basically threatened to like destroy the whole org or like fire half the org or like similar stuff like that if they don't hit certain targets by a certain date. And I think that's led to this outcome.
How do you think about AI adoption in enterprise, but just sort of B2B, SMB broadly? Because I'll give you an example. So, and I brought this up a few times on the show, but during the Studio Ghibli moment, if you had a post go viral enough, people would respond to it and not know where it was being created, seemingly unaware of OpenAI, ChatGPT broadly. When you talk to business owners today that are maybe outside of Silicon Valley and you explain to them what's possible for AI with AI, are they surprised? Are they aware of this stuff already? Do you think they're quick to adopt these products? I'm curious.
People are aware, definitely. We're seeing some very interesting dynamics play out in the market where SMBs are aware and they are eager to realize immediate ROI. So SMBs are actually the ones who have, in my mind, the most real deployments out there. They are actually deploying agents for mission critical stuff all day long. Enterprise customers are interesting because there is, I think, AI agents, there is a little bit of a return of shelfware. So, shelfware is like that thing that happened in like the 2000s or like the 90s, like Microsoft and Oracle, like just like released this software, very expensive, and everybody, the enterprise customers buy it because the pitch is compelling, but then it gathers no adoption internally. So it just sits on the shelf. And I think that's happening again with AI agents because a dynamic we're seeing play out quite a bit. And I don't want to say names, but there are some very hot AI startups out there in the enterprise that are basically shelfware. Like their revenue is skyrocketing and they're meeting very little adoption internally. And what's happening is that the board is on Twitter all day and they're freaking out. And they're on the back of the CEO and they're like, you've got to figure out this AI thing, whatever it means to figure out this AI thing. And then the CEO turns around and talks to his executives and is like, you guys have got to figure out the AI thing. And basically, the shit rolls downhill and immense budgets get unlocked, like hundreds of millions of dollars to like figure out the AI thing. And so, we are seeing these huge ARR numbers and these huge growth numbers. Adoption is low very often, and even when adoption is there, satisfaction is low because the products are not quite mature yet. And even when the products are adopted, they're not typically for very mission critical tasks yet. Like enterprises are notoriously, and I think for good reason, quite risk averse, and so they're going slowly here as far as like actual adoption and deployment is concerned.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think about how do you think about general risk of rolling out these products, right? If you're using Cursor internally to write code and help you ship faster, there's, if Cursor makes a mistake, you sort of can have the opportunity to correct it. The customer isn't necessarily aware of the mistake. Whereas there's a bit more risk with what you're doing, right? If a customer gets an email and it doesn't make any sense, or they're on the phone and they're talking to an agent and the agent is just sort of stumbling or whatever. I'm curious how you think about, testing. I'm sure you're doing a massive amount of testing internally and then making sure that these things are functioning before they're really, being rolled out at the customer level. But I'm curious what your approach is there.
Well, first of all, I always tell people to compare apples to apples, which is like the bar is much lower for agents than it is for other software. For other software, you want like 3 or 4 nines of reliability or whatnot. Agents, the comp is not other software, it's humans. Right? And when you hire humans, and very often enterprise customers, they have their support done by BPOs in the Philippines or in India or whatnot, the quality is not 100%. Right? And so you've got to compare this to that. So the vast majority of the time for use cases where AI agents are deployed right now, they more than clear that bar of human quality and then some, right? Because they're available 24/7. They respond to tickets in like a couple of seconds, and then they give you perfect observability. So you can actually see exactly task by task what your AI agents did like all day. You can't say the same for humans. And then on top of that, with this noted, which is like, hey, headline, it's fine. AI agents work pretty well. But, on top of that, what you do is obviously you deploy evals, you deploy human in the loop for like the most critical parts of a workflow. So for example, customer support agent. If you're Uber, we don't have Uber as a customer, but I used to work at Uber. If you're Uber and a customer complains about like a sexual assault, don't have an AI, just like escalate that to a human ASAP, right? Or if a customer is asking for a refund on a transaction of more than, call it like $500, escalate that to a human, right? And you can have these hard guardrails in place that are like, this action always structurally requires a human in the loop for the AI agent to perform it.
That makes sense. Can you talk a little bit about distribution? With a lot of these B2B products, you hear, anyone can set up a Shopify store, anyone can set up QuickBooks, but oftentimes these products are actually vended into companies from agencies, consulting groups. There's actually a middleman that's doing the implementation and the maintenance of the software. And in some cases, the companies don't even know that their emails are being sent by MailChimp under the hood or Klaviyo or any of these different SaaS products. Are you finding, do you think that'll be a material part of your business, or are you thinking about that?
Yeah, it is a material part of the business today. We have a partner network. If you go to like lindy.ai/partners, we've got like dozens of implementation partners that help us implement these things. I think it's temporary though, because AI agents are soon going to be simple enough. Again, if you have a drop-in replacement for a human worker, it's going to be no more complicated than collaborating with your human teammate. So I don't know that you're going to need this for all that long.
How do you think about collaboration between agents? I was reading the AI 2027 thing, and they were talking about, like when there's a billion AGIs, they'll just set up a Slack workspace and they'll talk to each other literally in Slack.
Yeah.
You gave that demo of the 3 agents working on separate things, and then I imagine that their results are kind of put together. Are you thinking about communication between the agents during the process? Because you could imagine that, it finds a great place to stay while you're traveling, but that requires taking a slightly different flight, and there's a trade-off there. And if you had a really great human working on booking you a trip that involved a flight and a stay, that they might want to talk to each other about the trade-offs there and kind of do some sort of optimization. You don't just want to book the flight and then also book the best hotel or whatever, because they might not be the same.
Yeah. Oh, and so this is currently something we support. So for example, like we do a lot of recruiting, engineers or designers or salespeople, anything, we're hiring everything, hit me up. But I have a Lindy that's really good at sourcing candidates, and then I have a Lindy that's really good at reaching out to them. So she performs research about them. She knows exactly how to reach out to each person and all of that stuff. And so these 2 Lindys are in touch with each other. So one finds candidates, the other reaches out to them. I think that's going to be super important. And that's part of why we are so passionate about having all of the agents in the same platform. You could say you don't need them in the same platform because they can use platforms like Slack and whatnot to collaborate. And that is part of the AI 2027 essay, right? He talks a lot about neuralese. He says like agents are not always going to communicate with each other in human readable tokens. And that's also part of our thesis. And so that's going to be much easier for AI agents to do if they are part of the same platform. I think ultimately this, like the AI agent team topology, is going to be one of the main drivers of the performance of your AI agent setup. And I think at first it's going to be on you as a user to figure out that topology. In a way, you're going to be doing the job of a CEO. It's like, hey, what's the reporting structure? Who communicates to whom? How? Like all of that stuff you're going to have to design. Eventually, and in the not too distant future, you are going to have an AI agent design that for you. So we call that the AI chief of staff. It's just going to manage all of your AI agents. And you can imagine this recursively, right? Just like agents managing agents managing agents.
What's your PDoom? Are you scared? Does AI scare you, or are you just like, no, we're putting them to work?
I'm terrified. My PDoom is about, I fluctuate. The error bars are huge, but like, look, even if it was low, like 10%, that's unacceptably high. If you listen to the Dwarkesh podcast on AI 2027, that's the part. I love Dwarkesh. I love the podcast, but that's the part where I'm like, what? At some point, they talk about PDoom, and one guy is like, yeah, I'm 70%, and the other guy is like, I'm an optimist. I'm only 20%, and then they move on. I'm like, can we spend the whole conversation talking about the fact that like very credible, very smart people who spent a lot of time thinking about this literally think that there's a 20% chance that we as a civilization go extinct in 10 years. Like I'm terrified. I think it's very under discussed. I think it's pretty, and I think that
is it possible that Lindy at some point pivots to being a defense company, but you guys are deploying agent swarms to fight the
robot apocalypse?
Our robot adversaries.
Look, we're selling to SMBs. We are but a humble AI agent company.
I mean, I want to talk about something very anodyne compared. Just the idea of like putting an agent on a cron job, that feels like something that's potentially so simple but very value creative. Just, okay, I have a task that I need to do, and I want to make sure it happens every single day. Are you seeing traction in that vertical, or are you messaging that type of activity? And what are some of the cool use cases? Like, do you have any like cron jobs set up where an agent does something for you, even if it's simple, just checking a newsletter, checking a website, just doing something pretty simple, but it's something that happens reliably every day that
Oh,
couldn't
I have
otherwise?
a ton. I have a ton. So I have one that actually I received the email from this morning that checks out my favorite podcasts every week. And because I don't really listen to podcasts anymore. And so it just like takes the podcasts, transcribes it, and sends me a summary of my favorite podcasts every week.
Yeah.
I have a couple that ping me on Friday nights. So one of them looks at my calendar and tells me and looks at my priorities and tells me whether my calendar is aligned with my priorities. One of them looks at my personal CRM and at my calendar and it's like, hey, you met with this guy this week. He seems interesting. You should hit him up.
That's cool.
One of them looks at all, because I have a Lindy in all my meetings, and so she looks at all my meetings for this week and she sends me a digest of all my meetings this week. We have one that every day. This one is really powerful, actually. It's one of my favorites. It's company-wide. So every day it ingests a ton of information from the company. So every external meeting we had with customers, every support ticket we received, a lot of communication. And then it sends a company-wide digest to the whole company, the general channel on Slack. So in a couple of bullet points, you get that heartbeat of the company. That's been one of the most surprising use cases to me is AI agents are really good at just ingesting a ton of data very rapidly and summarizing it. So writing reports is a really, really strong use case right now.
Do you need a larger context window for that larger task, or does it work with any of your models?
I mean, modern models have 200,000 tokens context windows. That's enough for 150 pages book or something like that. That's plenty.
Okay, last question. We'll let you go. What about the name? This seems like the least Lindy company possible. It's very new age and futuristic and sci-fi. Is it a reference to the Lindy effect, or did you just like the name?
No, we have a teammate named Lindy, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so we were just looking for a name for way too long, and then she was in the room, we were brainstorming. He's like, how about Lindy? And so, yeah, all right, Lindy.
That's great. I love it.
Can never leave now.
Yeah.
Just got to stay.
Do you have a last
this
question?
is great.
This is great. Thanks so much.
We got to
please.
get some Lindys going internally at TBPN.
I love it.
And
yeah,
great to have you.
Where can people sign up, get started? What's pricing look like for your average consumer B2B?
Yeah, go to lindy.ai and don't worry about the price. It starts at $50 a month. Yeah.
Okay.
And we also offer, to my point about the implementation, if you've got stuff you want to automate, hit us up. We'll use to implementing Lindys for people.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Well, thanks so much for joining.
Great to chat, Flo.
This is
Thanks,
fantastic.
everyone.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye.